Hi, and welcome to another episode of Wine and Wisdom. I'm Thomas Le Hoang, and you're listening to the TL podcast, where knowledge is shared and no one takes themselves too seriously. How you guys going?
Fantastic. Good to see you.
Well, listen, no cheating this week. I don't think that we're going to even compete in the wine this week, just to be nice to Chris. He lost his dad at the beginning of the week, and the funeral happened about 3 hours ago. So there's no competition. However, his dad always wanted a wedding, a funeral where no one's around and no one's to be sad, but that he wanted people to have a glass of wine, a glass of red wine, and to remember him by. Now I haven't met him, but it's unbelievable how much Seb looks like his grandfather. It's spitting image, right?
Yeah, really.
And so for today, I've gone red. I don't know about you. What did you go? Okay.
I've got a Californian Chardonnay.
Oh yeah, Wente. Yeah, we've had it many times. What year is that one?
2019.
It's amazing, isn't it? They said that there's no way you could make good wines in California, and now they have one of the best Chardonnays, isn't it?
Yeah, we've had quite a few that have been brilliant. I know.
Even their red's crazy.
Shout out to Veronique because that's her favourite. She's the one who introduced it to us.
Yeah.
Seeing we're not competing this week, we actually get to drink something we enjoy rather than something that is forced upon you. So well.
Yeah. So this week there won't be any cheating. No apparent bullying. Apparently there was bullying, so there's none of that either, and no need to lie. So wine and wisdom can go back to just wine boring. And wisdom rather than the rest. Yes.
It'll be pretty boring this week then, isn't it?
What about you, May? What have you got?
I decided to bring a red today too after the funeral. So I've got a Pinot Noir. It's a Molly's Cradle Pinot Noir from Tumbarumba, New South Wales.
I feel like we've had that one on too, and it's delicious.
Have you?
I feel like we have, yeah.
Might have been before my time.
I brought one on. No, I feel like you were there. It's nice, sir. Well done.
And maybe it was you who brought that bottle too.
No, I brought that. Yeah, I brought that.
I got a best Cab Sauv 2018. Normally Great Western, when we look at the name, you're going, oh, cheap stuff. But I tell you, bloody good bottle. All right. And so I know we've had it before. Sorry? Got
it from Audi?
No. And again, I was hoping that it was going to be on Vivino because it scored 4.1. But I knew now to watch for our wines and see like who's voted for the wine before, and I didn't see your name appear.
So I'm interested actually because there's no competition and normally the budget's under 50. Who got anywhere close to $50 this week? I got 2 for 35, baby. Yeah.
You know that. Meg actually nicely asked, hold on, maybe we shouldn't compete anymore because apparently she was a bit embarrassed by your show last week, Pool Show. and I said, no, the choice of a good bottle of wine is about preparation. It's a bit like the soldiers who needs to be in impeccable uniform because the way you dress reflects the way you think. And I think that putting the effort into picking the right wine or the best wine you can pick, mind you, based on what Vivino tells us, because that's the judge, well, that it's like our preparation for good wine and wisdom. And people said, why do you mix wine and wisdom? Because a lot of people can be wise when they're sober. We like to know that in vino veritas, meaning the more you drink, the more the truth will emerge. Therefore, if you can still control yourself and say something that makes sense, I think then you're probably inspired.
They also say you can tell a lot by someone with how they react when they lose, mate. And we learned a lot last week. So.
No, I love losing, but I hate drug cheat, and last week felt like drug cheat. Okay. Anyway, to Nick
To Nick,
Ginola, who wanted all of us to have a glass of red.
to Nick.
So you know who didn't attend the funeral.
Thank you.
All right. So what's happening this week? What's happening this week? Well, what's happening this week is probably for you to start, Meg.
Oh God. Are we going to launch into our topics, or are we just?
No, we're gonna do whatever we want to do. Wine and Wisdom is all about going wherever we want to go. So let me start it for you. Let me start it for you. Afghanistan. What's going on?
Horrible.
Wow.
Horrible. I wanted to actually talk about it last week, but things went a little bit sideways, and now it's mainstream news, so I feel like I've missed the boat. But they're crazy. The bits that everyone can see are pretty obvious for everyone. I mean, Afghanistan's crumbled again. The bits that people don't see is it was always going to happen, and that's a bit I wanted to dig into at some point, is what we think about the whole thing. I mean, those guys, the Taliban's never been beaten. They've never lost a war, and yet we went in there and chose to stay there for 20 years. I think something I want to touch on, if you're okay with it, TL, is its similarities to what happened with Vietnam and Saigon back in.
Yeah, I was gonna go there anyway, so you might as well just start.
So I'm more interested in how you feel when you see those pictures of the guys hanging off planes, and people have been putting up side by side photos of the people hanging off the helicopter in Saigon in 1975, and now we're back to the same spot in 2021. So, and something else that clicked to me, I'll throw it all out, and then you can go through answering. Is I remember last year on the podcast, you were very, very adamant about Australia not being America's puppet, and over different things. It wasn't about the war. It was over, I think we're talking about China and different bits and pieces. And I probably didn't fully grasp at the time where that part of you might have been coming from. And it wasn't until I realised when I saw the side-by-side photos of Saigon and Afghanistan, it actually clicked to me that might be a big part of your philosophy on the whole thing. So rather than give my opinions on it, I actually wanted to question you more, mate, about your feelings watching what's going on.
Well, I was very angry because obviously my parents came back for my uncle's funeral, and he had passed on because of a terrorist attack in Saigon in 1975, and we were meant to be there just for a few weeks before we traveled back overseas. And Dad just fled at the right time because he was warned, but Mum sort of said, no, it's my brother's funeral here. I need to stay here with the family. So she wanted to stay one more day. And that night when he fled, it was the night when the Americans left. Mate, I still remember now. So all night, all I could hear was helicopters, one after another, just flying over the house, and I didn't understand what they were doing, and I only understood the next day what really happened, because when I ran into the street the next day as a kid, all I could see was streets filled with ammunition, army gear, guns. I mean, so you had kids who killed themselves because they thought they were toys so they play with, and mainly because the Viet Cong sort of made sure that everyone understood they were going to go through all these houses one by one, and if they found anything that remotely shows that you were a US supporter, you'd be shut down. And I think I look at some of these things now. You know, we're talking about them as being barbaric, and I sometimes think, what is barbaric? The beast who would just hurt people and kill people, or the person who released and unleashed the beast? You know, that I listened to what Joe Biden said the other day, and I don't know, the guy's I've got no more respect for the guy, because you can't make claims the way you make and say that you care about people. You can blame Donald Trump for making the agreement last year, and you can blame the Afghan president. But really, you're now the president. You can make the decision to overturn every single one of those bad decisions. And I think it's very poor form. These people are in big trouble. You think about this, you all have children. Imagine now that we have those children and we have daughters, and by the time they're about 10 or 11, our entire country is overturned. And now we're going back to Sharia law. We're now going back to people marrying young girls because they can. And if you don't want to, they'll shoot you. Imagine that.
You can't.
I don't think I've ever felt the way I felt by looking at one photo that I felt when I looked at that picture of that aeroplane.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was something else.
We've seen people, well, we saw it in the Twin Towers, but we see it all the time, people jumping from burning buildings rather kill themselves than get burned alive. And to see people hanging off that plane and falling to their death because they'd rather take their chances hanging onto a jet than face what was coming is, you don't really need to second guess what's going to go on in that country when you see stuff like that. And
I don't think we need to really dwell on that, because really, who are we to know the truth, right? There's probably a lot of things happening behind, and who are we to claim that we know? But the one thing that I like to know is that we are business leaders. We run shows, and it kind of gave me a bit of that kind of metaphors about all of these business owners who got forced into lockdown or had to adopt some kind of level of restriction. And because that happened, they just flicked their salespeople out of their business. They just flicked their personnel as if they were the Afghan people. I look at that and I see all of these leaders who, in the good times, well, that's fantastic. I'm looking after all of my team and I'm caring. But as soon as there's a hard time, that's what they do. They just take off on the plane. They just go home. And actually, you think about this. They say, well, how could you even say this? I mean, I'm angry about that. How could you even say that we thought it? How can I expect our soldiers to die if the Afghan are not going to defend themselves? Mate, I remember my uncles telling me back in those days in 75, Thomas, we couldn't even defend ourselves because the minute the Americans started to go home, there was no more ammunition. They took away all of their gears, and to make sure that the gears was not going to end in anyone's hands, well, they made sure that there's that all the top stuff were being destroyed. I'm sure these guys had the same thing happening to them.
Yeah, I think depending on what you read, I mean, the papers are saying that the Taliban's taking all the stuff that was left behind. So apparently there was plenty of it, but they were never going to. I've read a couple of articles. One that was sort of from an element I'd never looked at, an angle I'd never looked at it before. We went in there and tried to destroy the people who have nowhere else to go. The Taliban are Afghanis. That's their country. That's where they live. So short of killing every last one of them, they were always going to be there. I never really thought of it like that. Where were we trying to push these people off to? And of course, as soon as they could, they were going to come back because it's their country. And then, I read last night, and probably have to take half of it with a grain of salt because it was written by Mike Pence, who was Donald Trump's deputy president. But Trump had agreed a peace deal to go with the withdrawal of the troops, and it had the Northern Alliance having part of the Taliban having part of the country, and the new Afghan state having part of the country, and the US slowly withdrawing their troops. And what's happened is Biden kept the troops in there for 4 months longer than was initially agreed. And that's when the Taliban started to attack, because America actually stayed longer than they said. So to then pull everyone out of the country at a moment's notice, as poor. I was talking to, so what are the ramifications of it, right? So you've had Does this help the world or hinder the world? The reason we went in there is because of the September 11 attacks. It wasn't the Afghanis who attacked us. It was Al Qaeda, who most of them were Saudis. We've gone in there. We've destroyed a country, but in the name of liberating them, and then we've left them all to die. Have we potentially created more terrorists in the world or less? Have we now got another country who are dead against the Western civilization? All we've done, and could you blame them? Imagine if it was our country, if someone had come in, done that to us, and then run off. Are we helping in the future, or are we doing everything we can to destroy them? So it has wide-ranging effects, and I'm too young to know the ramifications immediately following Vietnam, but
we don't have to go far, Cam. I'm just thinking. I mean, unless you want to say something, Meg, because I don't feel I want to. Okay. When they announce this lockdown, can I just ask? Let's imagine the lockdown was announced by someone like Biden, right? In this case, Gladys. What has she done to look after the people who've lost their business?
Nothing.
What has she done to look after the people who've lost their job, whose business was going fine? They were starting to get back on their feet from things. What has been done? It's not about the lockdown. It's about the anger that's been created from the lack of doing the right thing after you make a decision like a lockdown. And that is the same thing as saying to troops that have been working around you, making alive. There's an entire generation of 20 years who's grown up around you and who's helped you, and now you just say to them, I'm sorry, we don't have room for you on the plane.
Not only that, I mean, if you want to parallel it to the lockdown, we went there for 20 years to fight a war we were never going to win. We're in a lockdown now that's stretched 8 weeks, and the numbers are getting worse, not smaller. We're fighting a war the wrong way against something we're not going to beat, and the ramifications are going to be dire. God knows how many businesses are already gone, and I'm glad to see I've stopped now because it was putting too much toxic air around me. But I'm glad to see social media now, more people starting to realise that the people locking us down are the only ones that aren't taking a pay cut in all of this. And the long-term effects, I don't think they've considered, because we're on an absolute hiding to nothing. And people are saying too, look, the thing that has come up this week is, you think we've got it bad in a lockdown. Well, what about these poor Afghanis? Yeah, I get it. And Kabul and everything that's going on in Afghanistan is horrible. Doesn't mean you can't have concerns for your own well-being or what's going on in your own immediate sphere. To say that forget about what the government's doing to us because something's going wrong in another country is rubbish and very short-sighted. And I get, Gladys would be glad if we all pay attention to what's going on in Afghanistan rather than what's going on our own doorstep, but that's irresponsible as well. So, yeah, I won't go as strong as I did last week on those people, but they need to have a look. They need to stop.
The you're welcome people.
Well, you're welcomes.
Yeah.
The you're welcomes are now saying we haven't got it that bad because look at Afghanistan. Well, let's look at all the people that are going out of business and had their whole livelihoods taken away from them and tell them that their life ain't so bad.
No, but here is where we need to go further, right? So right now, because the world is angry, and so every country is now starting to fly planes in to get some more people out, right? Do you know we still have soldiers, people who are actually stuck over there, right? But did we tell the world that there was a very big jail where people from ISIS and terrorists were being kept? And when the American left, they just released those guys? What if those guys now step on some of these planes and start to come out here? Yeah. Did we look at that? And so I think there is a huge parallel between what Biden's done and how some of the decisions been made lately. And so I don't agree. I don't condone with what these guys are doing, protesting and all that stuff. Look at how a virus starts and how it's working, and then you can make up your own mind, but you can't make decisions that is just looking at one thing. I was telling a friend not so long ago, we all tell everybody, we need to we need to treat life like something precious. And there's so much money, there's so much thought being spent on just around death and avoidance of death, so much so that the celebration of life is gone. So what are we talking about?
Yeah, we're in a struggle to survive instead of fighting to live, you know.
Make
what
your
do you-
two sides.
What do you reckon the future looks like then? Because, like, obviously we know where we're at now, but where do you think we're headed for the rest of this year, and where do you think we go after that?
I'm really worried, man, because they've dug a hole. The government's dug a big hole. They've locked us down because of cases. They keep saying cases. They keep saying if you get vaccinated, you'll get out. But we know that getting vaccinated isn't going to stop the cases. America's 59% fully vaccinated last week. And I know it's a bigger population, so we have to scale it down to match us. But at 59%, the entire population vaccinated, they had 775,000 new cases last week. So, you know, chuck our population into that in the same percentages, we're going to get to 70 or 80% and still have potentially thousands and thousands of cases. And because they've said we're locked down because of cases, they're either going to have to completely backflip, which I think they should, and let us out, or stay the course. And if they stay the course, lockdown is the way to go. I think we're in I'm scared. I'm actually worried about what the future holds.
Yeah. I think that there's not one solution. I think that there is merit to lockdown, because when you look at viruses, unless we really slow this down, we're going to have way many more variants. This is how a virus works.
But it's going up exponentially, TL. We've been locked down for 8 weeks and the numbers haven't...
No, I don't think we've been in lockdown, man. I don't think we've been in lockdown. I had to go to the doctor the other day, and I had to get some fuel in the car. And I couldn't help myself because, you know, obviously you have to ask questions. And so I asked the guy in the petrol station, the attendant, I said to him, so business must have gone down. And he said, oh yeah, probably about 50%. So I'm thinking to myself, so there's another 50% of people on the road. I don't think we're having lockdown.
We're never not going to have, the point is we're never not going to have COVID by the looks of it. Apparently.
No, not now. Not now.
It looks like we're always going to have it. So the lockdown isn't the answer, because the lockdown is just destroying us economically and trying to fight something that's going to be here anyway.
Yeah, but here's to answer your question here. I think I separated my thoughts about what's going to happen in the future in a few categories. So the first thing I thought of is about our kids, the schooling that they have. I think they are going to be plunged into more virtual schooling. I think they're going to have, many of them are going to grow with a lack of connection. They're already lacking connection. They're already on those little things and using, you know, their whatever fingers, and they're going to lack even more. I think that they are probably going to develop some sense of lack of empathy. I know for the moment from someone who works with the police as a volunteer, there is a rise in domestic violence, but not between husband and wife. It is actually children against their parents. It's children who are now locked in small place, and where mom and dad used to say to them, shut up, and they would go to school and take it on somebody else in order to unleash themselves. Now they can't. They're stuck. So
no.
Sorry?
They're sick of being told no.
So now the shut up actually is a boomerang. It comes back. It's huge now. Apparently the number of calls that they have from parents who can't handle their kids anymore. But you have to understand, the kids, they have no let out. No, there's no way for them to let off their steam. So I think that that's gonna really impact on them. I think that we are, for the moment, for the sake of what they're doing right now, trying to get to zero, which is impossible.
Not going to happen, mate.
They are destroying our kids. And not only they destroy our kids, they destroy our kids against us, because in 20 years, this kind of behavior is going to stay. Right? The virus will be gone, but the way we treat our kids, the way we tell them off, the way that we having that conversation, it's going to have a payback.
It's not going to, you can't undo it. that's the thing. We know that all the experiences we have form who we're going to be later on in life, and what our kids are experiencing now is that's forever. That's long
I mean,
lasting.
on the positive, I have to say, I have to say, I'm bonding a lot with them, especially with our two elders, mainly because they're at home rather than having to spend all their weekend and their money into making sure that Bungalow 8's making money.
Fighting over the range.
But like this weekend, like this week, I bought a few gears. They don't know it, but I bought stuff because this weekend on Sunday we're having the Olympics at in Glenorrey. So we're having the Glenorrey Olympics in our backyard, and I bought a few toys and a few things where the kids are going to be in teams and they're gonna have the Olympics. And I think as a parent, you also had to sit down and go, okay, there's so many things I can't do. What can I do really to bond? Because I have to create outlets. It's one thing to say Gladys is this. What am I doing to have that outlet?
That's now though, right? So we I don't know if I'm starting to feel a pinch. What are we, 8 weeks in? And I don't think we're getting out before Christmas. So how?
What if we don't get out for a year?
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, I'm not disagreeing with you. You've got to be solutions focused, but the damage is going to be multiplied by how long that we're in, regardless of how solutions focused you are. There's a reason that prisoners go mental, mate, when they're locked in.
So my other prediction, so I looked at the kids and schooling, and then I looked at work, Megan, and for me, I think work, we're going to go down to something like businesses are really going to have to look at ways of making people work at the workplace for no more than 3 days a week. Business is going to have to really understand that people want the freedom. It's not just about the work. I think that people are going to start seeing that the meaning to their life is more important than the hours at work. If anything, and that's probably a positive that this restrictions done, is that people are starting to now, through the imposition of being at home, they're starting to realize that, hold on, maybe I need to also stop blaming. I got to see my kids when I couldn't before.
I think
get to,
for a long time people whinge that they don't have enough time for things, and now we've got all the time in the world and we're whinging that we don't know what to do with it or how to react. And
we're very restricted in what we can do though, Megsy, on that point. Sorry to cut you off. Like, it's all right whinging that you don't have enough time for things, but then when all you've got time for is living inside your own four walls, it's not a trade-off. I understand.
No, it's difficult. It's like not taking anything away from the fact that it's hard, but the other side to it is that our kids are watching us. They're watching how we're reacting. They're watching, we're going to get angry at times. We're going to get frustrated. We're going to do things that we shouldn't. We're going to have to apologize for things that we've done during this time because we're frustrated, as are they. They're frustrated and they don't, depending on their age, or no matter what their age, they don't always know how to handle it. We don't always know how to handle it, but they're watching us and they're learning from us. And you're 100% right that in the future, there will be ramifications that come from it because of what we've done, either knowingly or unknowingly during this time. But I think it's about being more on the positive side than the opposite. If we start blaming, or if we start, chucking tantrums about what we can or can't do in front of them, we're only going to get the exact same back from them, and amplified, because that's what happens with kids. You give it to them and you get it back kind of tenfold in return.
The good thing is a lot of people are thinking that I'm going to be cutting, what is it, Crystal says, who can cut the most Lantana Olympics? Well, that's probably going to happen. But the one thing about the Olympics in Glenorrey, I get to tell the kids off because I'm going to be the umpire. I'm not.
I was going to say, get ready for a participation ribbon, mate.
No, there's no participation. Even though my wife says, I'm too nice. But anyway, we have to have fun, and this is the thing that if people listening to this, I mean, the ones who've got too much time on their hands and they can only listen to this to entertain themselves. Really, what have you done lately to entertain your children? That's a question you have to ask. What are the things that you're coming out? Because if at night, every night, you're sitting down and all you can do is have a look at this here and the number of days and the complaint and all that. Do you know what you're going to be bringing up? Do you know what you're going to get out of these kids in the future? And I don't think that they need that. They need to really find a way to do with what they have.
We put him to bed so we can watch Survivor. Do you know Simon got voted off the other week with 2 immunity idols, the dickhead? 2 immunity idols. He didn't use any of them.
Who's that?
I can't wait till I get on Survivor. Wiseberry represent. I think it's important. I mean, as parents, obviously there's nothing more important than our kids, but we translate everything we've just said translate to work as well. The things that we do now in front of our staff are going to last a lot long into after lockdown.
Yeah.
And so we have to be careful about how we're acting now because people don't forget. And then the other part is how are we creating the fun or the variety for our staff now? Because we've always said we need to treat our staff like our children. And they're no different. They're locked inside the same 4 walls, talking to the same 4 people every day, day in, day out. How you going? Good, good. How are you? It's getting really hard to talk. And that's the important thing as leaders, we got to remember. It's not, you don't get to click your fingers after lockdown's over and we all go back to normal and go, okay, just forget everything that's happened over the last 6 months. I'm a good bloke again. Like you don't get to do it. You don't get a reset.
It's just even the connection side. Like we were talking before about empathy and stuff in kids, but in ourselves as well. Like I know this week in particular, I've sort of really missed that human interaction factor of being able to just, when you see someone, go give them a hug, or even just, seeing your family and you give them hugs and you interact with them when you see them. And it probably hasn't hit me until this week that we're just not getting that at the moment. One of the girls popped into the office today and she's mainly been working from home and she's just bought a new place. So she settled on it yesterday and we were all excited when she came in and everyone was like,
yeah.
like,
you don't know what to do.
Like, and even she said, like, Andrea's like, I can't hug you. And we're all like, I know, like, and it's a really weird thing for when you're so used to being able to interact that way. And I know we've been in this situation before where we sort of have felt awkward about interacting, and then we got somewhat of our normality back, and then now we're back here. But
that all ends in the debacle that was the awards night at Kickstart, mate. when you haven't seen people for a while, that's what happens there. Yeah. There was no worries about the hugs that night, especially with certain teddy bears.
Yeah. That teddy bear had a great time.
I'm interested though. It's just occurred to me that we're talking about the development of kids, but we're all at different stages. I mean, Thomas is 74, I'm nearly 40, and Megs is 21. So I wonder.
Hey, Megs, you prefer me. You
obviously,
know that. That's the point. You need to understand.
Obviously, hopefully, our brains are a bit more developed, but there's going to be effect on the adult population as well. Teenagers are going to have flow-on effects. Young adults who were meant to be entering their careers are going to have we've had a staff member who started her real estate career in a lockdown.
Yep.
It's going to have developmental effects the whole way up the food chain or across the food chain, whichever way you want to look at it. So
yeah, I think that businesses are going to be fractured. The small businesses are going to be fractured. The big businesses can still stay the same, but I think the small businesses are going to be fractured. I see already at school they encouraging our daughters who are just 13 to start their own business because you can, I was thinking about this the other day and I thought, oh, Cam, that's a business I'm going to have to talk to my business partner, because through Zoom, Cam, nothing is stopping us from selling in Queenstown. Nothing is stopping us from selling a house in California. And our skill is really transportable through this kind of thing. So I think that we're going to have to really recreate themselves and understand that the way that we work does not have to be really our little area anymore. And the workers also are going to realize that, hold on, if I have some of the tools around me, I don't really have to really be it in the workforce, in the workplace. I can just do a lot of things from home. I can go to work, like I think Monica here is talking about. I love going to work still. Yes, because we are into connections. We're into connection. We want to connect. Well, you know that we've had our people going into the office for one day, and it was like that. The best thing that happened to them, right? Because they want to take a talk to someone now.
Mate, I can't stand people, and I enjoy going into the office now. So something.
No. With you, it's different. People can't stand you. And, oh, I have to be very careful. There's bullying happening.
Oh,
I get that. I get that.
Right,
Yeah.
dickhead.
Like anything though, you can look at the challenges in it, and it is the biggest challenge that most of us have ever seen and probably will ever see. So you can look at the challenging side, or you can look at the opportunities that come with it. And at the moment, it's just a combination of both. You're going to bounce between it being challenging, and you're going to bounce between the good things that can come out of it. Like, when would you ever decide to have a family Olympics? You wouldn't, because you just wouldn't. You wouldn't have had the time or thought to do it before, because now we're being forced to think of things differently to utilize our time, because otherwise you're just going to do the same thing day in, day out, and it's going to get very, very boring.
They couldn't do it outside of lockdown because they would have had to invite me, and they'd know that I'd sweep all the medals. So that's why it's only come up during lockdown. That's why it's only come up during lockdown, because they know the big dog can't compete. So,
and I hope that Crystal is watching. Do you see, Crystal? That's when he says things like this, we have to correct him. That's not bullying him. That's correcting him. That's not putting him down. That's trying to elevate him up to our level. So you have to understand that. Anyway, I hope she's not watching.
Someone's still salty, aren't they?
Hey, listen.
Listen.
I have to say, we're talking about a lot of this stuff, but it feels to me now, being at almost 700 people on new case a day, the guys that are saying it's not a problem, gonna have to start shutting up, right? Because it's a bigger picture than that. Do you know now hospitals start to get hit? And do you know when hospitals get hit, it means there's surgery that can't happen anymore. They've already stopped some of the most some of those delayed kind of surgery, right?
So you can't have your butt lift, mate. So what? Right? There's more important things in the world. You
Listen, I'm ready to have a bet for all of our audience to watch. If you have a bigger butt than me, you shout us a car. And if I do have a bigger one than you, then I buy you whatever you want on the planet.
Oh, that's a bet. Crystal will be listening. I ain't got no ass. She tells me all the time. So we'll take that bet. Anything we want, baby. We're going to Disney World.
What a liar. What a liar.
I ain't got no ass.
More ass than class.
What a liar. But you are bad.
Hi, Thomas.
Hi, how you doing, Jeff?
Very well, Thomas.
We are not going to mention your family name, but I know, Jeff, that you work... you know a lot of things around ventilators, correct?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. A lot of things I know in life.
Yes. Okay. So for the people who are against the "You're Welcome" banners and so forth, what can you tell us about the state of ventilators for the moment, or the state of hospital, if you can help?
Well, I noticed that all of you are drinking wine.
Yes. Are you?
And there's an older... Well, no, I've got a glass of water. I was just outside. But, you know, that expression that you hear, the glass is half full,
yeah,
or half empty. And I think that we've got to have a little bit more positivity associated with where we are now.
Okay.
I agree.
And,
no lockdown. We should all get COVID. We're good.
Well, see, the interesting thing about lockdown, and I had a discussion with a few people, and, you know, I made the same comment. Lockdown's not really working because, you know, we've got 600 plus cases again and X, Y, Z. But when you start to put it in perspective, I'm lucky to live in the Hills District, and my neighbouring Hawkesbury and so forth, and my rest of my family is down at the northern beaches. Did you know we've actually got no COVID cases in this area?
Why are you
and why is that, Jeff, you reckon?
Now, number one, lockdown, because we are compliant with lockdown. And that's also the other interesting factor that I've seen just recently too, that 69% of Hills and Hawkesbury people actually had first dose in comparison to about 35 in the southwest region.
Is that
Right.
because the
And
Hills
that's quite
District?
dramatically different. So
that because-
I think lockdown's really working. Now, obviously, we have a different sort of demographic. We live on 800 meters block. Some people live on acreage.
Yeah.
So I think that, we're not in the medium density like southwest Sydney and, other regions. I think looking at the medium density down there, they've got bigger problems. And they've also got, extended family that are very close.
Yeah.
So maybe their family next door, maybe their extended family even next door to that. And
No, but
that's what.
I think part of the
Jeff,
problem.
it's the ethnic issue, guys like me, Vietnamese, born, you have to see your parents, you have to see your uncle, unless you visit them and you can't have a drink with them over Zoom. That's the issue. So they go and visit, and you know what they're thinking? Well, if everybody else actually respect the rules, I mean, who cares if I'm the only one who's breaking it?
And that's a comment that's actually coming up in the young people in these regions. The unfortunate thing with the Delta, it's really actually affecting the young people.
So maybe they should have sent. Maybe they should have sent less
50% of the cases
vaccinations.
are young people now.
Maybe they should have sent less vaccinations to the Hills District where you don't need it, to the areas that are struggling and they keep running out, Jeff. Maybe that's why we got the disparity between
unfortunately of that age group that I've had AstraZeneca.
And they shipped a
but
big
I
old
know,
truckload
some
of it to the
family
Hills District.
members would benefit from Pfizer.
So Jeff, I started the conversation by saying, a little bit about ventilators?
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the issue? Why is it that they're going through the lockdown, you reckon? Why do they put lockdown on? And what is it the government knows about lockdown and the issues of people who are going to get this trend up?
Well,
Is there enough ventilators?
Shut up, Cameron.
Cross-contamination.
Sorry?
Lockdown actually promotes reducing cross-contamination. That's a simple thing. If you're not talking to the next door neighbour, you obviously are not going to contaminate. This is a respiratory illness. And, we get it by droplet infections, and we get it by sneezing and coughing and not washing our hands and so forth. And, we touch the banners and we touch things in the supermarket, and this is how it's actually being transmitted across. So, if we can actually improve upon that. But the poor people in the hospitals, there's, I think I read that there's about 5,800 people that have been affected by this, and I think 700 people have been hospitalised. And our current rates now, 75 people are in ICU.
Yep.
And 25 of those require ventilation. Now, the people in ICU, the 75, they actually require a lot of sophisticated observations, monitors, blood pressure machines, heart rate things.
Yeah.
But they're actually having difficulty breathing, and that's why they're there.
Yeah.
When they can't breathe for themselves, that's when they have to go on one of these ventilators.
Yeah.
And that's when they become very, very sick. Their lungs actually start collapsing. They fill up with junk and become infected, and then the lungs don't move very well.
Right.
And that's why they require this ventilation support. But one of the big issues, and you mentioned on the podcast before that, you can't get your bum lift. Well, that's true. Because most of the elective surgery in the public hospitals have been cancelled. So you have to, if you want your bum lift, you have to go to the private facilities. So I'm not sure if that's going to help you at all.
So Jeff, just let me ask, so what happens when so prior to COVID, a lot of people were dying from the flu. I'm sure some of them went through ICU. What happened to their bodies, and how many monitors did they need when they were dying of the flu?
Well, that's interesting, Cam, because there was a significant estimation of people with influenza 2 years ago, and I don't know off the top of my head how many people were dying from it.
There's a lot,
but yeah, there was a lot. But what the strategy is now, and it's been said by the chief medical officer Kerry Chan, what she wants to do is get us down to a closer number. I think they've now agreed that they will never get to naught again, but they want to get it closer down. This 70-80%, what they're talking about in the report, if we can get to 70 or 80%, what that actually means is that the likelihood of people requiring hospitalisation and dying will be very low in comparison to now, but it would be more comparable to influenza. So if we can get to that 70-80% vaccination rate, you'll actually see a lot less of the people requiring hospitalisation and intensive care.
We've got 75 people in the entire country in ICU. 75. How many ICU
That's in New
beds
South
are there?
Wales. Yeah, New South Wales.
That's in New South Wales, by the way.
Well, no one else.
But to Kemp, New South Wales is the country, Jeff. You got
Carry On's my country.
the rest is a different continent.
Yeah, but what Cam's trying to say
That's very true. This is what's called federation.
when you look at the population is what you're getting at, Cam.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. How many people are in ICU from other illnesses?
Well, I don't know that statistic.
No,
But,
I bet you it's more than 75. How
I
many
know
ICU?
I know that the intensive cares are starting to get very full now.
How many
Is
ICU?
it already full now, Jeff?
A lot of them are, yes. And, a lot of the hospitals are actually extending out into other areas. This was actually a comment from Royal Prince Alfred Hospital that I watched on TV. So it's not anything that I'm disclosing here. They're opening up more wards.
Wow.
So
There's more
to
beds.
cater for more COVIDs.
So it means that they are going to be restricting on different operations, like people who may have something that's going to affect the quality of life. Well, the operation's going to have to wait.
Yeah, and that's why the government wants
And no more
to
boob jobs.
reduce the amount of elective surgery
Yeah.
in the public hospitals
Yeah.
and push the elective surgery to the private hospitals. So they're actually sending some of the public patients to the private facilities so that they can actually get their hernia repairs or whatever they need. But comments that a lot of people aren't going to their doctor for routine checkups. They aren't going for their mammograms. They aren't going for their prostate examinations.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are too afraid to go to the doctor or don't want to bother them because they think that they're busy.
Yes.
According to a
So
current affair, which is where I get all my most solid information,
Yeah.
they're shutting breast screening places in Western Sydney because of the lockdown. So people can't go and get their breast checked because of the lockdown. How many more breast cancer cases are there than COVID cases?
Oh, well, I know about COVID, but I don't know about breast cancer or mammograms and all that sort of thing. I'm just actually articulating things that I've spoken to various clinicians about.
Jeff, I'm going to ask you something here. I've heard from someone who has got apparently very good information that we are expecting the highest number of deaths by around February. Why would they say something like this?
I wouldn't know.
Okay.
I think I couldn't give you that answer. I think if we,
not for
the
lockdowns,
federal government, the state government's actually talking 80% by mid-November.
Yeah, but
I
Jeff,
think that's
it's
when-
unlikely they're going to get their 70 or 80 by November. You know that. You got guys like idiots Cameron who's going to say you should not do it, and he's not the only one. He's not the only one. There's three of us here. Two of us are saying, listen, sometimes in life you have to do things you're not happy with, but freedom comes with a degree of responsibility. We live in a community, and as a community sometimes, do you know, when soldiers go to war and they know that chances are they're going to die, but they do that to save a country. Now, what we're going through here now, there is this kind of need for the moment. You know, I am my own free man. I can make my own decision, and it just really boils down to really selfishness. But if we were four and Chris is not around, I would say that Cam would be in a camp of 50-50. So there's good chance for me to say, Jeff, that the country is 50-50 about all of this. There's no way you're going to get to 80%. And then when you get to 80%, you got the Israeli now saying it, and Dr. Fauci from the US saying it now already, that 2 shots not good enough. You're going to have a booster.
Well, we have a booster for influenza every year. The kids have boosters every few years after they're initially born. Boosters are a norm. It's not like it's abnormal. It's like it's a normal thing to have. If you have
coming out
tetanus and you fall on a nail, you need a tetanus vaccination.
Right.
You know, so boosters are normal. You know, that's just a normal course of immunisation.
What are you saying, Ken?
The other interesting thing I've seen, which was coming out from the UK. Now, what they did is that they had their open day and their freedom day, which was a few weeks ago. And this is really quite unique. Some people sort of thought it was immoral what they're doing. But they actually have a very high percentage of vaccinations. They have 80+% of vaccinations. Now, they're still spiking huge amounts of COVID cases per day. So their COVID cases are really almost the same as what it was during the second wave. This is their third wave now. But what's fascinating with the UK is that they've only got 50 to 60 deaths per day, which is like 10% of what was during the second wave when there was no vaccinations.
Right.
This was really pronounced. So they're actually minimising their hospitalisations. They're actually minimising their mortality as well. They're doing a good job. Plus they've opened up their economy. They can go on holidays, Spain, France, all these beautiful places.
Yeah.
That's why we need this. We're going to have COVID for the rest of our lives. We'll never get rid of COVID. We're going to have, we've had Delta, we're going to have Gamma, we're going to have
Lambda.
Lambda's immune to the vaccinations they're finding. Jeff, I've got a couple of points. So one is you use the booster for the flu vaccine. No one's come out at 11 o'clock every morning for a month and said, don't take the flu vaccine if you're under 60, it's not safe, and then come out a month later and said, oh, no, now it's completely safe. That's one. And two...
Because they've done research, mate.
Oh, of course they have. Yeah, it's safe now. Yeah, good. Yeah, they've done research.
I'm very sorry, Jeff. You are talking to the guy. Listen, we in every kind of show we have this. We have people who are a bit like Megan and I. Megan is a bit more serious than me. Then we have a guy for sensation. The Hollywood guy, and so that is our actor Cam. He's our sensation guy. Actually, as a matter of fact, Cam, aren't you going to the protest on Sunday?
No, I'm not. I organised it, mate, but I send the people in. I stand back. I'm the general.
What is it?
The only research they've done is the heads of AstraZeneca have rang up and said, if you keep saying a drug's not safe, we're going to stop paying you under the table. That's what the research has been done. But the other thing is people keep going along this line of, if you want to be able to move around freely, you need to get vaccinated. To me, having to show on my phone that I've been vaccinated every single place I ever go for the rest of my life is not moving around freely. It's moving where we let you go and they tell us you can go. So the whole concept is flawed. I'm not saying the vaccine works or doesn't work. I'm not saying get it.
Jeff, the failure of this generation is not about the vaccine, Jeff. The failure of generation is that back in the days of Cameron's watching television, Dora should have just spoken a little bit less about you get a medal no matter what. It should have really told him about, what is it? Hola! Just do the right thing. You know, I think it would have been much better. Hey, I got a message from Chris. Chris said he's gonna get a first job in September. Chris,
Well, Chris,
today is your
never
dad's
made
day,
you
man.
go-
We feel so privileged that you took the time to listen to us, man. And
not ever
I
make
just
you
want to
go
say, I'm sad for you. Megan and I, we cried for you. We don't know your dad, but for you, we were there because at the end of the day, every one of our mates losing their father is like us losing a part of ourselves. Cam couldn't give a shit, went to a listing anyway. So I'm very, very sorry about Cam. I'm sorry. That's about bullying again. I'm not gonna say it again. I take it back, Chris. Anyway, Jeff, where were you at, man?
No, look, I look, you know, I think Cam needs to fill his glass up, so it's going to be more than half full.
It's half full, baby. It's half full.
Then he'll be a lot happier in life.
Mate, someone's got to look out for the
You know,
people.
this is what the good thing about a democracy is.
We
Yeah.
don't all
You can
have a
actually have
thousand
free
square.
speech. You can discuss these things.
Yeah,
We don't all
I think
have-
democracy is very good because thanks to the guys like Cam, it makes me feel more intelligent than I normally is. And
Democracy works so well for the people of Afghanistan. It lasted 3 months. Well done.
do you know, I'm not really that kind of a svelte guy that you've seen like 2 weeks ago on the Olympics. But anywhere I go, when I'm next to Cam, people think I'm so thin and so healthy and so fit. That's why I keep on having Cam around me as a mate. Because we've made like his, I feel so much better.
You got to think of any way that will make you feel better.
Sorry, that was
You know what I
bullying.
like about you, Jeff? Nothing.
Hell, you can tell me.
Yeah, nothing.
Hey Jeff, as you, mate, I really love your contribution, man.
Thanks for
I
coming
know
on.
that I know what you do, and I know you know a lot. All right, so bit by bit, I'm gonna get a little bit of information out of you. One of these days, we're gonna talk about ventilators, Jeff. But thank you so much for today,
All right, you take care and all the best and love your podcast.
mate.
Love you,
Open a
Jeff.
bottle and start having a glass with us.
I love you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Well, we still love the guy. Listen, I know the guy. You guys don't know the guy, right? So he is the nicest guy you ever met. You'll ever meet. He is so. I give you a bit of the inside story about the guy, right? So, I mean, he'd hate me saying this, but you imagine someone who goes through life. And it's not COVID, it's not none of that shit. But at one stage, they have to say goodbye to the love of their life. And then after that, just focus 100% on their children. I mean, it's self-sacrifice. It's just amazing stuff. So when he speak, I know he's not joking. He really says what he really feels, you know. We don't know that stuff, and I'm sitting there, I'm just imagining. I understand how viruses work. A lot of these guys, before they really take us on, I mean, I have no problem if anyone who is you're welcome comes up and take us on. But if they understood how viruses works, how cell works, why the first wave is different to this wave, why AstraZeneca is about using the shell of the viruses, where Pfizer and Moderna is using the mRNA technology, which is a new technology. All of this stuff, once they can discuss about this stuff, then they can give me advice about some of the stuff, right? What I know, and I can say in a layman's term, the virus has got a fight against human beings. It's about a arm wrestling. Either the virus will win or we will win. And that's how it works with the virus. It doesn't understand anything else. It won't say things like, oh, you know, it seems like they're about to find me out. Then I'm going to go into hiding until they relax and I'm going to come back. The virus is all about Can I get faster and stronger? It's like an arms race. It's like China versus US. Can I get stronger and faster than them? If not, then I'm dead. That's how it works. So what we're doing for the moment with a lot of our things is we are facilitating its work. That's all.
I don't know anything about shells or proteins, and I mustn't be intelligent enough to have this conversation with you. But isn't the reason we have variants because the virus just keeps mutating to outdo what we're doing for it?
Yeah.
So isn't the goal got to be a peace between all of us where we can all just live together?
Think about this. Think about this,
Give the
Cam.
virus a big hug
Can't we
and
just
just
all
make
get
up.
along?
Think about this, Cam. Think about this. The virus is just no. You're absolutely right. The virus looking for ways to become stronger. Correct?
Yes.
What if we stop moving?
Well, some
The
of us
virus-
did that a long time ago.
So no. So listen, the virus hits me. If I'm weak, it kills me. But I'm not moving. Therefore I'm not giving it to somebody else, right? So if I'm not strong, I'll die. If I'm strong, well, I'll survive it. But no one is moving. Then the virus is dead.
Oh. So let me pose this question to you. Maybe we shouldn't go down this track. You and I own a business together.
Do we? Yeah.
Right.
Well,
So they lock us down properly because apparently
Yeah.
we're not locked down properly
Yeah.
tomorrow. Probably going to have to be locked down for at least a month
yeah.
properly where we can't leave our home. What do we do?
We'll become politicians because apparently our income still rise by about 15% over the next 18 months.
What do we, that's the thing. It's all right saying all this shit, and people who are comfortable in their jobs and comfortable in their income are the only ones saying this stuff, right?
No. It's not what do we do. I think it's not a matter of income. All of us are talking shit for the moment. Until one of our loved one dies, you'll see how we change our tune.
Yeah.
When one of our children dies because of COVID, you will see our tune change. Because the virus is getting stronger, it's now starting to hit younger people. The next variant is going to hit younger. When some of us are going to start losing 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old, you will see how fast we'll change our tune. That's when we will lock down. Now, do you know, I was doing a bit of studies on the Spanish flu. Do you know the Spanish flu? 100 years ago, did you know that people were walking around with masks? Because
That
of
worked
the
well for
Spanish-
them.
Right. Did you know?
We should
Did
try
you know
that.
100 years ago there was no planes. Therefore, once the virus hit you there, unless it reaching the fish, it wouldn't go any further. Now we've got planes, we've got all this stuff, but now we also have technology to trace things, so we can catch things before it happens.
So let me ask you this then, and I don't think I'm putting words in your mouth, but not that long ago, you were calling, if people wanted to do something about it, to march on Canberra. When this first happened the first time, we were very vocal about how bad lockdown was and how wrong the government had got it, you included.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because
you're allowed to change your opinion. You're 100% allowed to change your opinion. There's no issues with that whatsoever. But I want to know what's changed.
No, it's not what changed. It's I don't believe that lockdown is the only solution. I think that we're going back to what we spoke about at the beginning. Before you come out with lockdown, before you come out with the idea of pulling out all of these soldiers out of Afghanistan, what's going to happen to the rest of the population? What's going to happen to people? And for the moment, we didn't look after people. Mate, right now, we're giving money, just like the last way, we're giving money to the idiot who's making $200 because he's a bum and watching Netflix all day, right? He gets $600-700. The guy who's got a mortgage, who worked his bum off and no fault of his own, he now still has to pay for it. He still gets $600. Right now, we're paying the guy who's got $2,000 commitment every second week, $600, and the guy who's living home with mom and dad, $600. He drinks a little bit more. Anyway, I think it's wrong. What you need to do is to sit down and devise a thing. We now 1 year after the first wave. I still can't believe that there's no mask that changes color, that goes from green to red if I have COVID when I'm walking around town. What if the government sat down and said, you know what? Okay, we're going to increase your pay politician by about 15% over the next 18 months. But you go to work. Stop staying home and play Netflix or whatever. And go to work and start spreading the word and start showing people, and go back into those factories and start working on devising a mask that will change color from the breath this time because you've got COVID. We need to have a solution that encompasses the whole, not just the thing. So lockdown works, but it's not the entire solution. We're creating so many things, mate. I'm very fortunate. I have kids that are so forgiving, even though they know their dad is an idiot. They are so forgiving. When they see me doing idiot stuff, my kids, they love it. They say, "Oh well, that's that." And I translate and I go, they say you're an idiot, but we love you, we forgive you. I get it. But what if people don't have that?
Yeah. So, the funny thing is, and we're actually on the same page. I think most of my angst and most of my anger and most of my rejection about what's going on is the people who are getting left behind. If not moving around and not giving everyone the virus was the way to get rid of the virus, but everyone was being compensated to a point where they weren't thinking about throwing themselves off a bridge, you wouldn't have the two different sides of the fence. You wouldn't have the anger that you've got about the lockdown. All my angst about the lockdown is we are killing way more people by being locked down because people are going from $2,000 a week to $750 a week and can't survive and can't pay their mortgages than if compensation was commensurate with what they were doing prior to lockdown. And so in that way, I don't think we're that different, mate. I'm expressing it in a different way.
You are different. Do you think that it's the decisions that they've made that are wrong, or do you think it's how they've communicated the decisions that they're making that's wrong?
No, both. The decisions are wrong because if we go back to the very first lockdown, they shut down the hospitality industry before they shut down people getting off a cruise ship, right? Wrong. They've locked down all these businesses and all these people without having an adequate compensation plan in place to keep them afloat and to keep some self-worth amongst those people and some self-esteem.
Yeah.
Wrong, right?
I think to answer your question, Meg, what they doing is wrong. They still applying the rules of COVID-1 to COVID-2. Mm-hmm. And we know in business, the name of the game is evolve faster than your competition can catch up. And what they should have done is whatever we set up, which is COVID-0 in the first wave, can no longer be the target of the second wave because there is COVID fatigue. There is also that thing, we just read the book on rule number 2 of Jordan Peterson, where people going, well, it's going to be all right. We did all right after wave 1, so we're going to be fine after wave 2. So they should have taken that. And so what happened is that the variable have changed. The factors might be the same. It's a virus attacking people, but the variable, the circumstances have changed. They should have changed the formula.
Strategy's got to match the circumstances.
Yeah.
They've tried to do a one size fits all. Yeah, and I spoke to someone today their sister lives in Queensland and was talking about how much they love Comrade up there, my best mate, Comrade Palaszczuk. And she was saying how wrong it was and whatever, and I said, I guarantee you she doesn't live in the Whitsundays or any of the tourist destinations or doesn't have a tourist business up there that's been completely destroyed. Western Australia, that Premier is still on the news saying we're going for COVID-0 and nothing else is acceptable, but he's also putting his hand out for more of the GST from the federal government. Why he's saying that? To keep his state afloat. The messaging on all of it, and I talked about it before with the vaccine, it's safe 1 minute, not safe the next, safe again. The messaging on all of it is wrong. So to your question, are they not communicating it properly? No, they're not, but what they're not communicating properly is the wrong plan to begin with. So you can't help. I'm an easy target and I've got a loud mouth. So It's easy for everyone to say, oh, that's just Cam being silly. I'm not being silly, mate. Until they look after everybody who's really suffering. That's the only time lockdown's going to be okay.
Yeah, but the problem is that, we are not in a war against a virus, Cam. We're in a war against social media. That's the only problem. Is social media is giving a voice to everyone, and everyone thinks that because I have a voice, I must be right. I have discussion with people sometimes about this subject, and I say to them, all right, let's make a premise before we start the conversation. You tell me how a virus evolved. And the difference, what's the difference between variant 1 and variant Delta now? And if they can't tell me, then I know that you don't understand. Because when you understand it, you know what's coming up in the future. Just as much as you and I, all of the three of us, we are parents. So we know what our children are going to go through. We know before they are married, they're going to go through a stage where at some stage they're going to spit at us. Because at some stage, the testosterone and the estrogen is going to go about 3.5 foot from the ground, and that's where the brain's going to be. And whatever we're going to try and explain to them is going to happen, right? So we know that. But so why can we guide them? Because we know that. And why can we guide them? Because we've been there. So I think that anyone, before they really get this kind of thing, go through, sit down and look at what a virus does. What is its game plan? Then you tell me.
Yeah,
Don't tell me because you have a need for truth and everyone is about, I am my own person. I want to make my own decision. It's okay to make your own decision. But remember this, the person who makes their own decision has got a responsibility. The decision has got a target. Is the target about safeguarding your business? Because then it's not a decision that looks after the community. Is your target about like saving lives? Well, maybe it is about a community. Is your target about the fact that you've lost something, now you're going to have to stuff it up for everybody else? Then it's not a right target.
We're not again. The danger is that we're not in a war against a virus. The danger is we enter a war against each other.
Yeah.
And the danger for the government is we enter a war against them, which is starting to happen. Right? When we get to 70 or 80, if they don't let us out of lockdown, we better arm up, because they've been preaching this for so long. I'm very careful for all my ranting and raving. Anyone can go back and play. I don't make any medical claims, and I don't claim anything about whether the virus works or doesn't work. My whole thing has been about lack of trust from the messaging from the government, and my worry about the people making decisions for us aren't suffering the same circumstances as the people who have to bear the results of their decision. Right. And the problem is we've been split into vaxxers or anti-vaxxers, right? I'm not anti-vax. I'm not. It's just no one's been able to explain to me how 1 + 1 = 2 with it, because 1 + 1 doesn't equal us getting out.
But Cam, right now, if you show people who are anti-vaxxer 1 + 1 = 2, they still won't believe you, man.
That's the thing. That's the biggest danger, mate. The biggest danger is a war against ourselves. We've been turned on each other. We're dobbing each other in.
So here it is. We're coming to the end of our live Facebook. And my mate, he's good at one thing. He's good at ad-lib. So you've got 1 minute, bro. I need you. Best 1 minute of ranting. Come on. 3, 2, 1, go.
All you idiots out there that are on vax versus anti-vax, you need to stop and end up somewhere in the middle where both sides can be a little bit right and we work towards a common solution. If you're one of the dickheads who rings up and dobs on your neighbour because there is a slight chance that their mother paid them a visit or they've got too many children in their house, pull your head in. We can't turn into a society that dobs on each other. That's what the police are for. All the government wants is us to turn on each other so they don't have to do their friggin' job. We all need to wake up to the fact that the only people who aren't losing out of all of this are the politicians who still get their full wage, who don't live in suburban communities where they can't go and visit their parents, and apparently can jump on a plane to Tokyo because the Olympics is on. That is the real issue that's facing us. That is what we need to all worry about. Traveling around with a vaccine passport that you have to prove every shop you friggin' walk into is not walking around freely. You're not going to be free by doing it. Vaccines and doing what the government says is not going to get us out of the hole we're in. Stop it.
I love it. This is the 1 minute segment of Cameron. Meg, you wanna close this show?
I've had a lot of fun today, actually, on our show, I must say. Started well, it went well the whole time. Cam got his say, we all got our say. Everyone's smiling.
No cheating. That's because there was no cheating.
Chris, we love you, man. It's been a hard day for you and a hard week. And, mate, we don't underestimate it. We love you, brother.
I'm drinking to Nick. To Nick.
Peace out.